'Twas beauty that killed the beast. This is spoilers.
This is spoiler.
Did we watch the same movie?
Yeah, it's the Emily kills the bad guy. It's like King Kong, right?
Yeah.
Let's kick up the the 12 inches of snow playing in the background because this is the Canadian movie and this is spoilers, like I mentioned at the top of the show. We had someone DM us, they slid into our DMs and sent us a screener, so we're talking about Dark Forest today. Let's see. So who do we got on this podcast? I'm pretty excited to talk about this. This is going to be a great show because I know if you're listening to this podcast, you actually like us. There's no way you just stumbled across the Dark Forest episode. So I feel good about it. Josh, are you excited to talk about Dark Forest?
Yeah, it's like we're playing in our home court here. I love it. Crowd's going to be cheering no matter what we say.
Where's your home court tonight, Josh? Where are you recording from?
I'm in Goshen, Indiana, and I am a video editor, as I sometimes mention on the pod. And unfortunately for this movie, I had to spend 3 days this week going over color correction. So I don't want to turn this into a color correction podcast, but yeah. Toss it on over to Brett.
Brett in Fort Wayne.
Hey, what's up?
Brett, do you normally watch movies that were made on such a limited budget? Is this a normal thing for you?
No.
You weren't around in the time of Parallel and Alex Cooper, so this is a first screener spoilers for you.
Definitely, I was just a big fan back then.
A big fan of Alex
thanks,
Cooper,
Brett.
Weren't we all?
Everybody, and spoilers, of course.
I was a fan of Alex Cooper. I still am too.
And no release date yet for Sandow, but we'll be keeping an eye on that. Yeah.
And last but not least, Money Mike. Money, you didn't go to Ready Player One tonight because that's what I was going to ask you about. How's life otherwise?
Good. I have my notes open here, and it talks about the production, the writing, and then a large portion of my notes is just weird stuff. So I'm ready to get into this.
Subsections in the notes, going all out for Dark Forest. Yeah. So okay. I actually didn't write his name down. Who is the auteur behind this?
Roger Boyer.
Roger Boyer. So we know he's Canadian. We think he slid into our DMs on Twitter, and we're here to talk about his movie. So it's kind of a slasher, horror, thriller type, mixed in with a little bit of like Nashville, because you have 20,000 characters who are introduced within the first 2 minutes. I think there's actually 9 different character introductions by the 3-minute mark in 4 different scenes. So let's just try to establish a base of who the players are in this movie. Who do you guys remember? Brett, did any of the characters stick out to you? I know you are a big fan of a lot of these actresses.
Yeah, Francie and Sally were both fun.
Okay, wait, slow down. Let's establish who they are. So Francine is one of the sisters.
I think
right?
so. I wrote down blonde, nose ring.
Okay.
And then for Sally, I put dark hair, hot.
All right.
I think that we should call them Team A, and it consists of 4 females.
Yeah.
And I would say they're Team A. They're the main group.
The main camping trip. You got Emily, who's like, she opens the movie, right? There's some kind of
Ghost Emily. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Let's not dissect that quite yet, Pappy.
Yeah.
Let's build to that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll build to that. So we have Emily, who has some sort of multiple personality subconscious. We have Michelle, who stands out because she's a brunette. I have in my notes the goth sister for her.
She's kind of the one that stands up to the guy a couple times throughout the movie. She's like the thug.
And she has like the cool muscle car too.
They make fun of her at one point for like not having sex for a really long time.
Yeah, we can talk
weird.
about that scene at the campfire. That's a little weird. But yeah, then we
Okay,
have
okay.
Jolene, who, Mikey, do you remember what her little affectation was at the beginning of the movie?
No, I don't. I was
She's the one with the camcorder.
Camera.
Well, okay, I was confused because there's like 6 main characters right off the bat of this movie, and none of them are ever established as like the protagonists of the movie. They kind of all just kind of interchange being the main character. Did you guys feel that?
But yeah, and like Jolene, like I said, it's kind of like Nashville because it's like a slice of life of these 8 different people. Excuse me, 8 different people.
I think it's
Just
9,
try-
by the way. Oh no,
9?
you're right. It is 8. It's 8.
Well, it's 8, but I count Evil Emily as kind of like a half person, so it rounds up to 9. But yeah, it's like a slice of life of those 8 people.
The bad guy has 2 thugs with him, so that would be 11.
11
actually.
different characters. Yeah. A sprawling epic set in Manitoba of these 9 different lives that are all affected by this psycho killer on one night. But yeah, so we start talking about the other camping trip. So we get a shot of them really early on, like I said, too. And they are Henry, who this guy is like playing TJ Miller, right? Like he's trying to be TJ Miller this whole movie.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I can see that.
He's making some bold character choices, being a real sexist asshole. It's not paying off.
He got the hottest.
Well, I mean,
he got the hottest girl though.
I don't know, man. Frankie, who's driving the car. I don't know like Frankie's like main characteristic is, other than he's like kind of pervy. Like he likes to stare at women's legs. He likes to snap secret pictures of women in the woods. But other than that, he's just kind of there. Am I missing anything?
Who are the guys that always die on Star Trek? What color shirt? Red shirt?
The red shirts? Yeah.
Frankie's a red shirt.
But it doesn't exactly play out like that, because for a while you think he's going to get the girl, but then she turns him away because she probably had the same feeling Pappy did, that he's kind of sleazy.
They're like making out, and then she's like, no. And he's like, I really choked on that one, huh? I'm like, huh. I wonder what that means.
And then what happened, Pap?
Then they choke on their ambitions, like Darth Vader and
Aspirations.
Rogue One. Yeah, aspirations. Yeah, but then we're jumping ahead a little bit. Brett, you mentioned Sally, who's T.J. Miller, Henry's girlfriend, and then Kim, who is Frankie's love interest, who just broke up with her boyfriend.
Billy.
And then we talked about the boys too, because early on we established that Emily's got this boyfriend named Peter, who's got to go get a drink with the boys. Peter is the most Canadian sounding of them, and because of this, or maybe despite this, he's also the most creepy of anyone in this movie. Then you get Roy, who's just kind of a bitch, I guess.
Yeah.
Roy doesn't really do much. And Jake, who gets killed. Guess what do you guys think about the boys?
First death.
Anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, first death.
Peter just wants to crack open a cold one with the boys. It's
boys,
Saturday.
yeah.
He's trying to get lit. I don't see any problems here so far. He's just a regular dude.
There's like 40 beers on their coffee table between the 3 of them.
Yeah, I feel like
Peter is fucking lit.
They're trying to get drunk enough to make some really weird decisions tonight.
And then Peter's like drunken rage lasts for 2 days in a murder spree. He just like rides that shit forever. But yeah, so I guess that's the cast of characters. We do meet 2 random campers later on in the woods, but maybe we can talk about them later. So yeah, the plot of the story, like I said, the first act is really just a slice of life of these 2 different groups, either getting ready to go on a camping trip or picking each other up or preventing each other from going on a camping trip. And then in the very opening scene, like I said, we have Emily with that dream sequence. Josh, we put that on hold for a second. Was there something you wanted to say about that opening dream sequence with Light and Dark M?
I watched the movie in full, and I'm not completely sure what that's supposed to mean. and it might be the best part of the movie, but I haven't settled on what it actually is yet. Does anyone here feel like they have that figured out yet?
I thought I was watching Annihilation. I thought the first scene.
I thought the same thing. I have that written
like
down. Looks like Annihilation Land. Yeah.
But like Josh said, it doesn't connect at all to the rest of the movie. So
I don't remember it at all, and I just watched it an hour and a half ago.
Well, it's got this weird, trippy color scheme, and I think it's trying to show that Emily has this dark side to her, which doesn't manifest until the end of the movie, and we get another dream sequence with Dark Emily right before she goes full stabber on the Peter. But
yeah, there's kind of like a good lighting Emily, bad lighting Emily.
Yeah,
Two-Face.
And one thing that's really funny is my favorite podcast in the whole world is Mysterious Universe, and they just do supernatural stories, and they have this big running joke that anytime they're looking into something supernatural, there's always a way that Bigfoot is involved. And that's what happened in this movie. Bigfoot is involved with her supernatural powers somehow, because when she was sick, she got lost in the woods.
Do you think the berries that the Sasquatch gave her the powers?
Ooh.
I mentioned it to Brittany. She laughed at me, so.
Is there any way we could get Roger Boyer on the phone?
I do. Okay, speaking of that, I tried to get him on the phone, and he slid back in our DM saying he wouldn't be available, but he did give me a message to read. So if you do want to see this movie, if we're enticing you into watching it, I'll have the details on how you can watch it later. So stay tuned for that. But Josh, you touched on something with the Sasquatch thing, because the characters in this movie have two primary means of communication. The first being storytelling. There's 6 stories that are told throughout the course of this movie. And every time the movie kind of has to pause to tell those stories, there's the bug story about the entomologist who is scared of bugs. Jake, who we talked about, his girlfriend fell in the toilet or something like that. Do you guys remember that one at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bitches sometimes.
Yeah, his girlfriend fell in the toilet and then he berated her. It was classic boyfriend behavior.
Real cool, Jake. Yeah. Emily tells the story of Michelle about how Michelle saved her life. So Emily tells Michelle the story of how Michelle saved her life again over the rapids. Frankie tells a story by the campfire. It's a scary story. And
spooky spoiler story.
It's really weird because they set up the story, then they cut away, and then they cut back, and then he tells the story in full. When it would have been a good opportunity to cut off part of the story, we could have jumped in at the halfway point because editing. But we hear the whole spooky story of the person who gets their kidneys cut out and killed by a drifter. Then Josh, what you just touched on, Emily tells a Bigfoot story. Do you remember any other details? We talked about the berries a little bit, but
yeah, anytime I hear Bigfoot, my ears definitely perk up. So she got lost away from her parents, and she sees a mass out of the corner of her eyes when it's getting dark out, and it's a monster. But instead of hurting her, it comes over and brings her some berries so that she can sustain through the night and be reunited. So
British Columbia, yeah. That's really
yeah, it was a boot. A Bigfoot. Is that all there is there, Pap, or is there something else?
No, that's literally. I think that's all there is.
He was hairy. He was hairy and really tall.
Your rendition has more detail than her rendition in the actual movie. So
I disagree, because her telling the story is one static shot for 95 seconds at least. That doesn't move. The camera doesn't move. She doesn't move.
Michael
Michael
Bay does not understand that.
No, it's a very still moment. It really draws you in to the Bigfoot story. But then in the last one, maybe we'll talk about that later. The dog knocks over Peter's beer can,
Jeez.
and that's why he's a murderer, or Peter's dad's beer can, and that's why he's a murderous psychopath or something like that. But like I mentioned, there's two ways of them communicating. You have the stories, and then you have what I would describe as, quote, girl talk, unquote. That's for a lot of their road trip scenes. Did that? What do you guys think about the dialogue between the main group of girls?
I wrote down awkward dialogue among female characters. And at one point, they mentioned that they're sisters. Are they all sisters together? Because they talk like they're total strangers to each other. But
I think they're sisters in the traveling pants sense.
Well, you guys have seen Four Brothers, right?
Yeah.
oh, it's one of those situations?
Maybe.
Yeah, because they don't look anything alike. And the girl with the camera actually is kind of pervy towards the other blonde. She's actually kind of creepy when she's at home. She's trying to get shots of her in the bathroom and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't really understand these girls' relationships towards each other. If they're sisters, it seems like a bit of a stretch to me.
They're trying to be like playful, but open, kind of dirty and real, I think is how they're trying to portray the characters. But two of them are like best friends. I think the crux of the girls is the tall brunette who is Michelle. Yeah, her, and then the girl who's like got the split personality. But I wanted to get to this later. Yeah, Emily. I have a theory. I think David Boyer, in getting actors on this film, may have just told everyone they were the main character. So on set, could never go against that, and
That
they had to
has
give
to
like
be it.
equal time to everyone.
That's like a Blair Witch thing, right?
I noticed this too, that I think the cast is in the credits in order of appearance, and on IMDb it's in order of alphabetical order. So there's no like top billed person. He was very careful to keep that straight. But yeah, I mean the dialogue between the female characters, it's like he was trying to write like a woman talks, but in doing that he forgot how humans communicate, and it just ends up being kind of clunky and weird. Like at one point they get into Michelle's like Mustang or whatever, and they say something like, I'm having a food craving. Another one of the girls goes, somebody's pregnant, biatch. And I paused the movie at that point and said, if a woman wrote this, I will give you $10,000 right now. Then immediately looked it up, and it was a male screenwriter. So that was confirmed.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard a lady say biatch.
Biatch. Yeah, I would say sorry, what's the creator's name again?
Boyer?
Roger Boyer.
Yeah, Boyer. Yeah, I would say either have the actresses improvise next time, just maybe do a couple shots of those, or bring in a woman, like do a couple drafts and then bring in a woman and say, like, hey, can you tighten up this dialogue?
The thing is, the dialogue is like, it's bad. But wouldn't you think that these women, these female actors, wouldn't they say something like, well, no woman is ever going to say this kind of stuff. Can I just like goof around here for a couple scenes?
Hey, Mikey, it was made in 2015. Time wasn't up at that point.
Jeez, Brett. But I gotta say though, I think on a positive note, we're getting a little negative. Like, I think that is a little bit of charm shining through there. Like the actresses do seem like they're giving it a shot, and they're not like eye rolling through this or the dialogue. Like they seem like they're having fun, like genuinely, I would say.
There was a little piece of dialogue that I actually liked and wrote down that made me chuckle. It was like,
that?
Animals don't speak human. Well, I don't speak animal.
I mean, there are some quips. A lot of them are, who's the blonde sister? Francine. A lot of them are just her being dumb as fuck, and then she just gets goofed on a lot. That's a lot of the crux of the jokes. But let's. I want to get to the woods plot. So there's a couple more things that happen before that, before we get to the main part of the movie. So they go on this road trip to pick up Emily, and there's I think there's a scene where they're sitting outside and there's a bunch of like red flowers sitting right next to Emily's face. And then, Josh, you've talked about the lighting a little bit. The lighting in this scene kind of reminded me of Vertigo, maybe. I don't know. It looked kind of cool. What did you think about the shots of Emily and the lighting?
Does anybody else remember the exact scene he's talking about? I honestly don't.
It's like her and Michelle are sitting outside, and it's like a reverse shot conversation, I think. And there's this big red bouquet right next to Emily's face. Like, it's very ominous looking, to say the least. Which I liked. I liked that. I thought it was a good partial setup. But, I mean, maybe just in general, you're talking about the good light Emily, bad light Emily.
Yeah, I think if like I said, I don't want to get too technical about like color correction and stuff like that.
Go
but
there.
I would say this: if you watch this movie for the first time, the biggest lighting trick is in the apartment of Emily and Peter. Is it? He's the baddie.
Yeah,
Peter. Yeah. So Emily and Peter's apartment, like apparently there's like a corner of the room that they have like lit in red. And so Peter spends a lot of time in that corner.
Yeah, I had that written down. I was going to ask you what the heck that was. Like, it was like all around him, like he was glowing.
And it kind of works when they do flashbacks to him, like at the house, alone, brooding. But at one point, he's having a conversation with his buddies, and they're like goofing in regular, like, white light. And then it cuts to him 2 feet away, just in perfect blood red light. Yeah.
This scene reminded me of like Temple of Doom when the Aztec guy is like chanting right before he rips out that other guy's heart because there's like chanting in the background and everything is so red around Peter's face. Peter looks fucking crazy. I'll admit that. He looks like a pretty scary dude. So
he's like the worst boyfriend ever because he's abusive to the girls when they come just to pick up their friend, and then he's like, "Why don't you go take a nap or something?" And Emily sneaks out amongst the cover of a thunderstorm that cracks in the distance, and she leaves Peter's house. And then she shows up the next morning. The girls are packing their stuff for the trip. They grab their lucky hammer, which I like that setup. It's so cheesy. Don't forget your lucky hammer. I'm like, oh yeah, this hammer's going to be used later on in the movie. Like,
that's
that
okay.
Yeah,
that's like tongue in cheek. But I gotta say that they have like a 40-second montage of them like loading up the car. Like, you got to trim that down in post. Like, that's got to be 5 seconds, not 40 seconds.
But this movie only comes in at like 70 minutes. You gotta
make it a short film, man. There's a lot of stuff you can cut from the theatrical cut of Dark Forest.
Do you think he made it longer to make it a feature instead of like a short film or something? I don't know.
Well, I wish we could ask Boyer that, but he does make a cameo, and I want to really talk about this scene, the gas station scene, because Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. What happens is Michelle walks into the gas station, then walks out. But I believe the term is a crossfade that they use, right? Where she kind of like...
It's just a... Is it a fade? I don't know.
It could have been a freaking star wipe.
Every movie I've ever seen codes it. That means she's a ghost. She like appears into the store and like appears out. Like, it's really...
Or she went through time and space. And
exactly, yeah.
But it didn't mean anything in the film. And like the bigger thing was like they needed to get to this gas station to set up the director's cameo as he's sitting outside in like a lazy boy sleeping.
Is he kind of like the harbinger of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Good call.
That's exactly what he is.
You girls, be careful. And what did she say? I'm like, fuck you. I don't even remember what you said.
And then he gives her like a thumbs up on the way out, but they like show his face 3 times.
So we think that's Boyer, the
pretty sure.
Yeah. So if that is you, talking directly to you, let us know.
That was funny.
We found you.
Yeah. So then we finally get into what we've all been waiting for in the slasher, the trip to the woods itself. I guess, what do you guys remember about when we first show up in the woods? Brett, did anything stick out to you
That
from that part?
that they found like the most perfect, like, film ready camping sites. Other than
flat.
that, I was still confused. I kept waiting for the two groups to meet up. I don't watch a lot of horror movies. Is that something that's common where there's two completely separate groups? Or were they just brought in so there'd be enough death and not kill any of the four main characters?
I gotta agree with Brett. The two groups really confused me for a large portion of the movie. I didn't know if they were like somehow related or friends, and they had all agreed upon this camping trip
Right.
at some point,
Mhm.
but wasn't exactly made clear.
They tied a few threads that I thought they were going to end up completing at the end. For example, the pervy dude who we mentioned earlier is all pervy and getting rejected. And then there's a girl that like hasn't gone on a date for a really long time and needs to, quote, get the cobwebs knocked out. So like I thought there was going to be some like meeting between groups and like, yeah, like a hookup or some sort of cross reference besides he just like takes a... Dude, and that makes no sense. He takes a
was weird.
picture in the dark with his cell phone.
Yeah, they're like naked or anything. They're just sitting there.
And then when it cuts back to them, they're like, let's start the fire now. And it's like already dark.
It is
but he
already
shot-
dark, yeah. It's like, you're fucked. You gotta just wait until morning at this point.
I had the movie going again this afternoon while I was taking some notes, and when that guy comes over like from group B to group A, it reminded me of that meme that's going around where it's like Disney says Avengers Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover of all time, but not group B to group A. That made me laugh a lot.
Pappy, that was a good one.
Pap,
So,
is what you were fishing
Yeah.
for at the beginning of this woods scene? Were you fishing for the Lonely Island song that they used to walk into the woods?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember
that's
that?
what Brittany said. She goes, "That's that the Lonely Island?"
wait, what? I didn't even catch this.
It was like the same
Oh my
group or whatever.
god, it was
Will,
ridiculous.
I think
The
it's
lyrics-
Will to Power.
You got to go back and listen to the lyrics.
It's definitely discount. My
We're
boy,
playing it right now. We're playing it right now.
Crank it.
Right now.
Crank it.
Now get off the island, please. Haven't heard my name yet? Well, you best get ready. Have it burned in your mind. Like the Nightmare Freddy, I'm like the ghost in the machine. You never even see me coming. Take your car, boat, bike. Either way, you best be running. Brute force, intellectual, or pure cunning. I'm here to claim my spot, and I ain't stopping for nothing.
What do you guys think about the soundtrack in general? It was like eclectic.
I have a couple notes about it.
Yeah.
First of all, it was kind of all over the place, but I don't know. There's some stuff I actually kind of dug. Brittany said it sounded like 80s porn soundtrack or arcade porn. Her words, not mine. Like porn, a slasher
That's
film,
not bad.
porn in an arcade with video games going on in the back.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
There's a couple good songs.
No,
Like,
I agree.
when they're on the road trip, I like that music. And then during the credits, there's a couple of like Canadian rap songs, and yeah.
That's the Lonely Island, isn't it? They play it again, I think.
I'm a cool, calm, collected, humble Canuck, but I'm telling you now, your opinion, I don't give a fuck.
That
Are
is
you
very
serious?
rude for Canadian.
That is an
That is
absolute
extremely rude.
lyric. Yeah,
You sure he
Rude.
didn't say pal or buddy afterwards?
pal, not your buddy, pal.
Sorry.
I'm not your buddy, friend.
But I think there's like totally, whenever this chick is getting into her classic car, it's exactly like Drive soundtrack, heavily influenced. And then there's like lens flare almost coming off of the car. It's super like 80s aesthetic.
It does kind of sound like the Drive soundtrack. Not Real Human Being, but that other one.
Yeah.
I can hear it. Yeah.
The main bad guy had a song credited. I don't know which one, but Peter had a song performed by him,
I can see that. I bet it was the rap one.
possibly,
He's the rude boy.
or it could have been the Depeche Mode sounding one, which I actually liked a lot.
I did like that too. Yeah, I actually one of the top IMDb comments for this movie is that the music's really good. But yeah, so
Well-
Peter. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Well, you just mentioned Peter, and we brought him up a couple times as the bad guy. It would be my guess that if anyone in this cast had like Hollywood potential or like a look, I feel like he might have some sort of something going on.
He definitely
Anybody
has a
else?
look.
The look, yeah, I'll give you a look.
I thought Jolene may have been the best actress, the girl with the camera.
Yeah, Frederica or Weta, something. Veronica.
The first girl to die wasn't bad either.
No, she wasn't bad, but for Jolene's camera, like the movie spends a shit ton of time in the first act, like setting up the camera,
And then it
just
dies.
interviewing the girls with the camera, and then we get to this point in the movie, right when they get to the woods and the camera dies. It's like, well,
Yeah.
okay.
Henry has a camera too, and he literally chucks it. He's like, "Oh, I didn't bring the batteries. Well, this is fucking useless," and throws it.
I thought that was a stereo.
Oh, was it? I thought he brought a camera. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
That may
anyway,
have
it's
been a
weird for
stereo.
a Canadian to like pollute like that. I wouldn't want to see that.
Give a hoot, eh? Yeah, so where are we in this movie? So Peter decides he's gonna gut these bitches, and Jake taps out, and so then he commits the first murder. He kills Jake. I think he just stabs him from behind, right? That's the first kill.
Into the
I want to get
into the
these kills
camera.
down. Yeah. Oh, into the camera, yeah. And then, so pretty much at that point, Roy's going to be along for the ride, the bitch character. And so Peter's going to the woods. We got the two groups of campers in the woods, and then enter third group of campers in the woods. We haven't talked about them yet.
Yeah.
Alice and Anthony. They
So
have
many characters.
tumultuous relationship at best, I'd say.
That scene didn't make any sense to me just because, like, if they were going to leave right after, why would he need to go scare off the person making the noise?
What
They-
didn't make sense to me is why are they having sex with their clothes on?
I don't know, but he did say your earlobes taste like chamomile. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. That was an odd choice. But why aren't they having sex at their house? Why are they going to the woods to have sex?
I don't know.
Especially when his house is open, she would just she gets like really annoyed that she agrees and like compromises to go back to his house for quote round 2. But like, oh man.
She hated his guts, it seemed like.
Yeah, and her idea of like she hears a sound outside the car and she sicks her dude on it to go chase it away. Like, he's a good boy. He's gonna go
Yeah.
chase that away. Like, what in her mind is happening out there? I don't understand.
I don't know.
And he's such like a douche about it too. He's like, "Hey, buddy, I'm trying to get laid over here. don't kill me." Like, oh, okay.
Is that a New York Canadian accent?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I'm
He's just kind
walking
of
here.
Hey, I'm walking. I'm trying to play some hockey over here. Come on.
Hey,
But, yeah. So they get killed pretty unceremoniously, I think, if I remember correctly. Right? He
gets his
Gets-
throat slit, yeah.
They look pretty
throat
good.
slit.
Pretty good.
And
kill.
then actually, yeah, pretty good kill. And then I think M. Night Shyamalan actually ripped off this movie in Split because it's
Whoa,
the
I'm
exact same scene.
Taking the headphones off.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
okay, Brett. We lost Brett.
Brett didn't want to hear the spoiler for Split.
Wait,
Let
what
me-
was
Oh,
that? About him,
Brett.
getting in the car.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, when he gets in the car, it's the exact same shot type thing where she doesn't realize that the bad guy has replaced the good guy in the car.
I kind of like that
He's-
shot, actually.
It's
Maybe-
he uses the exact same concept in Split.
Oh.
It even looks really similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a
Um,
couple. That was another strong point of the movie. Is there were maybe 3.5 legitimately scary scenes with tension. Even, don't you guys think? A couple moments, that being one. There's a couple jump scares that worked a little bit too.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think these first kills are probably the best. The ones that this couple in the car.
Yeah. Let's actually take a quick break, and we'll get into the last kills. So I'm going to read off how you can get a hold of the movie, and we'll have spoiler and player plugs, and then we'll get to the final scene of the movie, and then give our yes or no's after this.
Don't miss the ending.
Hey, Josh, your microphone's popping.
Oh, no. For how long?
Just a couple minutes, I think. That's why I took the break.
Nice break.
So while we're on break, this is what at Dark Forest Film sent to me to read how to get to and hold of their movie. Spoiler man couldn't read this, unfortunately, tonight. He is anti-Canadian, so he wouldn't read this. But I asked him to come on the podcast, and I gave him our number, 903-776-4507, 903-776-SPOIL. But he said that he appreciated the offer, but his voice sounds awful, and since they're in Canada, he didn't want to get long distance fees for calling our hotline bling. But the movie can be purchased at their website, darkforestfilm.com, and if you buy it through that site, they'll throw in a mini poster and sign it if you want. Or you can get it on Amazon, both in Canada and the US. And they say thanks again, and let them know when the podcast is up. So, Spoiler Man, go ahead and read our plugs, and then we'll be back to the
Our
show.
email is podcastspoilers@gmail.com. Twitter is @spoilers_pod. Our Instagram is podcastspoilers. It's lit. Josh Hensley from the Rutabaga wrote our theme. Our number is 903-776-4507. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, subscribe on SoundCloud or iTunes. Please don't forget to leave us a review by searching for Movie Spoilers, clicking on the cereal bowl, select the Reviews tab, and leave us some stars and some words.
And we're back.
And we're back. All right, so now we have the final kills. We're going to kill off these last 8 people. Let's run through these a little bit quicker than we were before. So Frankie and Kim kind of separate off from the group, and like we talked about before, they're making out, and then they get in a punny kind of death. They get choked out.
Can I interject real quick on that?
Please, yeah.
The girl, before she died, when she's talking about her ex-boyfriend, Billy, was she like reciting the lyrics to It Wasn't Me by Shaggy? Did anybody else notice that? She said like he was like butt naked, banging her on the bathroom floor with his pants down, and he said it wasn't me. Anybody caught that?
No,
She
I
said
didn't
the
catch it.
kitchen
That's
floor.
hilarious.
It was the kitchen floor.
Okay, yeah.
Wait.
Shaggy debunked.
It's pretty similar.
Is Roger Boyer trying to pull a fast one over all of us right now?
Yeah, I did.
Roger
Is this a
Boyer,
Shaggy
stick to snow. Don't give us Shaggy's R's.
All right, sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, so yeah, that's how they die. So there's 2 of the characters gone. Actually, a night passes. So it's the next day, and TJ Miller, the TJ Miller character gets up to take a shit, and he takes a pee, and then he dies, I think, by hammer. Mike, you remember this one?
Yeah, he gets a hammer to the face and drops an engagement ring.
Yeah, that was kind of out of nowhere.
It turns out Henry has a heart. It's just filled with beer and jizz. I don't know what kind of character he is supposed to be, but
Again, Henry, you're the main character. See, you were gonna marry her all along.
yeah, I don't know.
So I don't want to skip over this though before we get to the other kill. So that's 3/4 of Camp B gone. But before we kill off anyone else, we get the beach montage. Brett, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, it was disappointing. I was more mad about something else that was going on, the other thing, but I guess I can get to that later.
Well, yeah. Well, why are you disappointed in the beach scene?
No, well, you know, like a lower budget movie. It's a horror movie. You know, you kind of expect
bags. Just say it.
Yeah, bags.
You want bags? Yeah.
And you
The
know,
implication.
yeah, it's because of the implication for sure. I mean, they're just I don't know. There was literally the last chance to see one was the beach scene, and when it was over, it's like, well,
the fact that they set the whole thing up like it is gonna be a scene like that, there's like, dance music, multiple cuts of these
Sexy
girls.
porn music. Yeah.
Sexy porn music. These girls whipping each other's in the asses with towels, pillow fight or whatever on the beach.
If this was made in 1985 instead of 2015, they would have all been topless for sure.
Mm-hmm. But that's Brett. We had a good talk about this before the podcast. Actually, like either go bags or go home. Like, there's no point in having a scene like this if they're not going to be naked. Like in an R-rated movie.
And that's not just guy talk. I mean, that's like
yeah. Or cut the scene. Like either like
the scene
treat them treat them like actresses and don't have like the sexy scene where like a lot of the cuts are just like parts of their body, like their stomach or their boobs or like their back, like super up close, adding nothing to the narrative other than it's time for the sexy scene. Either cut that scene or indulge us a little bit and let's actually have like a sex scene, like a proper horror movie. Roger, where are the bags, Roger?
They tiptoed the line between like horror tropes and trying to not do horror. It was weird.
Brett, did Brittany watch this with you?
Oh yeah, she watched it with me.
What's her thought on that? Because it's not really fair that just four dudes are talking about the subjugation of women. Like how
she was extremely disappointed that there was no nudity on the beach.
Oh my god!
Or she just said the whole thing.
She's a fellow connoisseur, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, she loves it. Yeah.
All right.
She said it's the only reason she watched it.
Well, we had an over-under bags over jump scares. Did we get an official tally on that? I think 2 jump scares maybe and no bags. No bags.
Sets of bags.
Yeah, so then I might be getting these last couple events confused, but Sally, the last remaining member of Group B, gets punched out and hit in the face with an axe, I believe.
Yeah.
I like how Sally made no attempt to contact her friends for like 8 hours and
Thank
waited
you.
until
Okay,
it was
that's
dark.
That's what I was gonna say. That's like the only thing that really bugged me.
Lit no fire.
She's there for 10 hours just sitting there by herself.
Yeah, and they said up earlier she didn't have a cell phone signal either, so she's literally just sitting there doing nothing.
Well, even more importantly, there's shots of Sally in the daytime and the nighttime. So there's no practical reason why they couldn't have just killed her off in the daytime
agreed.
when she was there that day. You had her there. But, so Sally gets punched out. And then we talked about the Sasquatch story ad nauseum. But I just want to say again that, it's 90 seconds of a static shot. And I think the point comes at the end where she says monsters aren't always who you think. But I don't know how that ties in thematically, because her story is saying that what seemed to be a monster is actually a good guy, but I think the movie's saying that what seemed to be an innocent girl like Emily is actually a psycho. Maybe?
See, I didn't pick up on that at all, but now that you guys mention it, I'm just like, oh, it makes sense a little bit. I mean, she's obviously really creepy at the end, but
if that's the point of the movie, why not explicitly tell us that Emily is the main protagonist of this movie? This movie centers around so many different people. Emily's whole story or anything doesn't really matter in the end.
It's hard to get 11 characters into a 68-minute movie.
Have you guys seen Nashville? Any of you?
No, but I'm familiar with it.
It's actually a really good movie. I just watched it the other week, but it's like the same thing. They got like 12 or 15 main characters, and the story just kind of like bounces between them. It's kind of like he was grabbing that a little bit.
Plus, Bruce Campbell's Evil Dead too. Feeling a little bit of that in the beginning.
A little bit of that. Yeah. I thought there was gonna be a little bit of Blair Witch with the first-person camera, but maybe that was just a misdirection.
A red herring, if you will.
A red heron. But yeah, so Peter arrives on Camp A, finally knocks out 3 of the girls. And
one punch. All of them. One punch.
Yeah.
Very strong.
My notes get worse as films go on generally. Do you guys remember what happens in this last little tumble? I think it's like Michelle versus Peter.
Yeah, that was...
But no, yeah, Roy steps in at some point, the bitch guy.
That was actually probably the most tense moment, I think, when he had them all tied up. Well, they weren't even really tied up, but and then I don't know.
He was about to
tells the story.
execute them all, and then he's kind of yelling at Emily that what did he want Emily to do? Just come back home with him or something? But
but prove it. He kept saying like, "Prove it, your love to me" or something. And she's like, "I don't know what you want me to do."
He wasn't even explaining what he wanted her to do, and so he goes to kill the first girl, and Roy steps in and tackles him and knocks the knife out of his hand, and then he gets stabbed in the head.
He should have attacked him.
Temple.
That's when he delivers that story you were mentioning earlier, Pap. I feel like you had something else to say about that.
I think it's like the dog spilled Peter's dad, the psycho's dad's beer, and then the dad kills the dog, and then he says, I rewound this like 3 times. What the dad says in the context of the story is something like, "Now that dog's hunger loyal," which is and I don't know what that means. I don't understand those words.
I saw this a little differently. Maybe I can explain.
Please,
I think Peter spilled the beer. The dad attacked Peter, and the dog attacked the dad when that happened.
Yeah.
So the dad snapped its neck and said, "This dog's lost its loyalty." And when a mutt loses its loyalty...
Yeah.
So
Nice,
maybe
Josh.
that's what he was tapping into. Like he thought Emily wasn't being loyal to him.
Yeah, so he goes and mass murders like 8 random people. Because,
As
it's
you'll
an
do
indirect
when you're
correlation,
drunk.
yeah.
Just hey, it's Manitoba. What happens in Manitoba stays in Manitoba.
Famous saying.
Yeah. Josh, do you remember the payoff with the Lucky Hammer?
Well, the payoff is when our brunette friend who had packed it in her car, Michelle, finds it on the ground right when he finds his knife. And instead of lunging at her and attacking it, suddenly he's Chavez from Young Guns and decides to use a knife throw, and she actually in a special
cool.
in a video effect post-production thing like knocks the knife away with the hammer. And then she hits him 4 times in the face with the hammer, and go ahead, Brett.
That was the part that made me mad. I mean, he gets hit in the head with a hammer 3 times. I mean, it easily could have been dead after 1. Then he gets hit with another club. Then he gets hit with a rock 3 times. And then they just keep dropping these weapons. It's like, and then
Just finish it.
I actually screamed at the TV when she started stabbing him. Like, he just got hit in the head 8 times with a rock. You're gonna need more than a knife to kill this dude. I don't know. This bugged me.
Yeah. You know what this movie could have used? Like maybe even a scene early on that like shows that maybe Peter's just like a Superman.
I thought that's what they were trying to set up with like the red scene of Peter is like maybe he was like sacrificing goods or something, and now he's got like some satanic powers or something. Like why is he so weird? I don't know, but none of that kind of stuff ever paid off, so I don't know.
Were the knife stabs CGI?
The one in the temple sure as hell was.
But they looked not real, which I figured knife stabs would probably be one of the easier practical effects, but I have no idea.
The knife stab in the temple was the biggest question mark for me, because like how does the knife run through a skull like that?
Like butter.
Perfect placement, yeah.
Good placement. Yeah.
What's that thing with babies where their skulls haven't fully formed? I think he was suffering from that.
He's just Roy's just such a baby. Huge. This whole goddamn movie, his fucking skull isn't even hard. That's how much of a baby he is.
Matthew
but one thing I did want to say about the knife callback too is just trust your audience, like because he plays it's my lucky knife, like in a dream, or lucky hammer, like in a dream sequence.
Hey, it's your lucky hammer.
Like, dude, I remember that. It was 45 minutes ago. Trust me, I remember the setup. Like, it would have paid off fine without that little reminder. But yeah, so Michelle and Emily kind of team up, and Emily just basically stabs the shit out of him. And then the last shot of the movie is Michelle and Emily embracing, and we get an over the shoulder shot of Michelle, and we see in Emily's eyes have kind of gone, I guess, 1,000-yard stare, and some creepy music starts playing, and we're supposed to say that Emily's kind of crazy, I guess. Anything else in this last little part of the movie?
If you're gonna make Emily crazy at the end, say some demonic spirit transferred from Peter to Emily after she kills him.
Ooh,
Do
nice,
something
Mikey.
like that,
I like
because
Mm-hmm.
well,
But that can't work
that's
because
just like,
she already
there's no
had
thread throughout it.
She
through
already
any
had the
of these
Sasquatch
people.
powers, though.
yeah, and that scene at the beginning where she's like,
But we already established that Sasquatch was good. It goes
He
against
uses his berries, berries for good, not
Yeah.
evil.
It goes against his morals.
Any other thoughts on the film overall?
I was getting excited that there could have been a ending like Death Proof where all the girls kind of team up to just
Ugh.
beat the crap out of him. It's kind of this weird like one by one take him down, and everyone had their moment to get like one shot in, and then he would just like overcome it and like knock him out.
The ending actually kind of reminded me of the Vivitch, the witch. I don't know if you guys have seen that with Anya Taylor-Joy. But she's super innocent kind of throughout that whole movie. And like the very last scene, she goes psycho, crazy murderer. It's kind of like the same thing. And again, this movie came out before The Witch too.
But it's like saying that the only way a woman can overcome a man is if she's got multiple personalities plus given Sasquatch powers. Like, why?
If I had to guess, I don't think Boyer. I didn't have any many problems because also all of the men in this movie are assholes. There's not one good man character. So I think he gives it pretty evenly to both men and women, equal disdain. Brett, Mikey, anything else you wanted to add? Any other notes you had?
For a movie that has 12 main characters, not one of them was lovable or likable in the least. And that's a real big problem for a movie you're trying to make.
I thought that Francine was kind of the nice one, but the nose ring.
I think they're trying to set up a contrast that Emily is super sweet and everyone else is a douchebag, and like you're supposed to be surprised that she's the one who goes stab happy.
Yeah. I have one last note, and it's for the technical people. Like midway through the movie, there's a shot where like the sun goes through Peter's head. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It kind of like starts in the middle of his head, and then like the camera pans, and it. Nobody remembers that?
Yeah, I think it's not at the very end, is it?
No, it's like midway through.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how that was done, but I guess if you don't really remember it.
I think it's like a key overlay thing. I don't
Okay.
know. It's hard to explain, but did you like it?
Yeah, actually, I put cool, right? I put sun in the forehead. Cool, right?
Cool, right?
Yeah, I mean
That's
those
it.
scenes with the moody scenes with Peter were okay until they were just like next to his goofy friends in the same room. Like
Yeah.
then it didn't make sense at all.
I'm done.
All right, yeah. Let's get into yes or no's. We've been talking about Dark Forest for as long as the movie Dark Forest is.
Minute by minute
So-
analysis.
Yeah, I'll go first. And one other thing I want to say too is when you watch the credits of the movie, there's 28 producers, including Sarbit Travel and Insurance Agency is listed as an executive producer. So we're assuming that anyone who contributed to the Kickstarter got some sort of producer credit, right? That's probably the rationale there.
Yeah.
I would say so, yes.
All right. Well, yeah, this is a. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a. If this is your first episode of spoilers, let me vamp for a second while I decide. We only give a binary rating system, no or yes, and that's objective on each individual reviewer's criteria for what is a no and what is a yes. I'm going to give this a yes. I'm going to give this a yes because I really enjoy seeing movies that were created on a limited budget and when people have to be creative with access to limited resources. I think it's technically competent enough, especially compared to other movies like this we've done before. I can hear everything. I can see everything. I pretty much know what the characters are saying.
It's a low bar, Pat.
Well, I think that everyone...
Sometimes that's the most important thing, is to be able to hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what sunk Time Bandits. Right, because you don't watch movies with closed captions. But I think it is important, if you love movies, to watch movies that are made underneath these kind of conditions, because it gives you a respect for every level of the filmmaking process. And maybe it's not the most efficient screenplay, like we talked about, with lots of stories and a couple montages and maybe a couple shots that go on too long, but it doesn't require a big commitment of time to get the story watched from start to finish. And I laughed a couple times. I laughed with the movie. I had fun with the movie. And I think that's what he's going for. A couple things I would change, like we talked about, but I'm going to give it a yes. It's worth your time. Mikey, what do you say?
I think you bring up a lot of good points. Technically, the way it looks, it's fine. It sounds fine. But when you're working on a budget like this, a shoestring budget, the writing ends up being the most important part, and that has to be really solid for something like this to really come together and be a successful project. And by successful, I mean like a cohesive story from a beginning, middle, and end to it. I didn't hate this movie. I think I'd give it a yes too, just because it is so short. And I know how hard it is to make movies. I did this stuff in college, and it is really difficult to get a group of people together to come and make something on film. It's extremely difficult. I don't have any problems with it being a bad movie, but it is not a great movie, and it does end up being fun to watch. I don't want to compare it to The Room or anything, because I don't think it's that bad, but it's one of those movies where it's fun to kind of goof on it, even if they kind of did try to make a real movie. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's an hour-long movie, and it's a pretty decent slasher pick, I guess, for what it is, so I'll give it a yes.
Nice. And I would like to say that Roger Boyer does have another movie in the works called Frackin' Zombies. It's been announced on IMDb.
Oh, hell yes.
So
we've got to spoil that. Yeah,
Roger, if you're still listening, we would love to do a podcast on that too. Brett, what about your yes or no?
I may have to echo pretty much everything you said, Pat. We talked about it before the podcast started. I mean, if this was like $150,000 budget, it'd be a definite no. But with what they did, I thought the music was pretty good. I mean, the acting some of it was okay, I guess. I don't know. I thought the shots that were cool. I mean, I'd probably give this a pretty soft yes, but I also agree with Mikey. It's just kind of fun. No bags is kind of a knock-ers. But
hey now.
But there was enough cool stuff in it, and like Mikey said, I started this movie at 8:30 and we did a podcast at 10. I mean, there's plenty of time. It's a short movie, so I give it a yes. I say check it out. There's enough good stuff there. You rarely say this, but this movie could have probably benefited from more, 20, 30 minutes more. And if you didn't add stuff, take out some of the stuff we were talking about, like the beach scene.
Just tighten it up.
Tighten it up, like
tighten it up a little bit.
The packing scene. I mean, like, Didn't need to be 40 seconds like Josh said. So I give it a yes, soft yes.
All right. Brett, you might want to tighten up your reviews a little bit next time, your yes or no's, but I'm just kidding.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while. I got a lot to say.
I'm just kidding. All right. Last but not least, the harbinger of our podcast, the wise and powerful and ancient Josh.
I can't in good conscience give this a yes. I think that's deceitful for if this movie to become preserved. I think there's like some Stanley Kubrick flicks that aren't even preserved on spoilers.
Yeah, we can't let this be
I mean, I'm not a big fan of like the glamour, blurry kind of filter he had all the way through this, and I applaud him. Like a couple of you guys said, like not an easy feat to do this on a shoestring budget and in small town Canada with. I mean, everyone's kind of the same age. Like, there's no one super old or super young that's like. These are people taking time out of their day to not get paid and do like a passion project. And it looks like they had fun, which is cool. But like you guys said, I have a sneaking suspicion it was kept at an hour 10 or whatever so that it could be submitted to feature film length things. And it probably could have been stronger at like 25 minutes as kind of like a show of what this director could do in a future project. Like there's just no room to show girls packing for a minute or the dudes like sitting next to a person lit in all red in their living room with for no reason. Sorry to get hung up on that part, but it really struck me as crazy. I think that's it, Pappy. I think we've said about all we need to say about this movie, and as usual, like, if you're around still, Roger Boyer, thanks for listening, and like, we're not trying to crap on what you're doing here. Like, it's amazing that you're able to put anything together, and we see a lot of movies, so we're just kind of comparing it to those, and you're up against a lot of masters, so.
No, yeah,
like Ryan Johnson.
Again,
Yes.
yeah, we appreciate
what?
The screener link.
Triggered.
All right, let's wrap this shit up. We appreciate the screener link, and yeah, as people who are making something creative on our own, making a podcast where we talk about movies is a fuck less ambitious than going out and making a movie. So, Roger, we appreciated it. Any future films you do, we'd love to spoil. If you are making a movie out there and your name's not Roger Boyer and you'd like us to review it, send us a link and we'll do it. But yeah, so then coming up, we just did a podcast on Love and Mercy. Coming up, we have The Breakfast Club, and we might be doing a podcast on Ready Player One, but if we don't, just edit that out of your brain. Thanks for listening. That was Spoilers.